Alright, so in this video we are gonna create the router. So first of all, one of the things we want to do is we want to go in and basically put in the router view slash component. So one of the things we can do now is, since we don't really need the comments here because this is the components are pretty self-explanatory, so we're just gonna add in the router view here, and in our case we're gonna wrap this inside a container for now at least. So by doing this we have the router view here. We are gonna focus more on the UI later, but right now this is just to add in basic. Now what we want to do is we want to go in here and we want to create the router.js, and inside our pages file we also want to have a main browse.js, which will import all of the routes file in here. So let's start out by importing view from view, and let's import the router as well, and actually let's call this index instead, and then let's go in and say import router from view router, and then we want to export default router. So what we want to do now, routes, so we want to create a variable here, so we're going to focus on this later on again. So now we want to basically create the one that will import routes from this folder here where we import other routes. So let's take a look at that. Alright, so I have just made this code ready here. We will get an error by this because first of all we need to export router here. Second of all, we need to import routes from pages, and then we want to go in and basically just import routes here. Great. So by doing this now here we have this one here, and then we want to go in and work in here and create some stuff in here, and then we want to create our first component here. So let's get right into it. I realized I made a small naming error here, and we should actually change all of these to routes. So if we go and change all of those in here now, I'm sorry about this naming error, but let's go in and change it. And just go in here in the last one. When that's done now, we can go in and we just want to have the home page here and change this one here, and then we want to go in and add nothing in the Vuex actually to begin with, but just a home.view component. So inside here let's go in and create a template, and then let's go in and create a div here with one small paragraph, and let's just say hello world. And in case of scripting, we just want to say name and call it home. And that's all for this component here. So now we want to make sure we can actually import this component inside routes here. And then when we import this component, we are going to import all of our components inside this routes file here, that then will be loaded inside this file here, that we will then load into the app.js file, and this really helps for scaling the application. Alright, so what we want to do now is we're not going to create index.js file here, and then here we want to import home from, and we can actually put this inside a components folder because just to keep it more organized. So if we move this inside a components folder here, then go inside here and then say components, and then we can say export default, and then we want to put in the route details here. So we have obviously also want to add in from here. Sorry about that, I'll just turn my notifications off, and then in here we can add in all of the route details. This is how we're going to create the routes. We're going to have the components, we're going to have the Vuex, and we're going to have this in this. We can have multiple components in here, but at the moment we're just going to have one. In the auth one, for example, we are going to have components, and we want to have login, register, we want to have forgot password and all of that, which if you want to add that, but we're not going to add that in this series. This might be added in as a extra part of the series later on, as I've talked about before, but at the moment that's not going to be part of the default here. So let's go in and create the route here. Alright, so we want to have a path here, and that should just be like this. Then we want to have a component, which should be home. And then we want to have a name, which we just call home. And then we want to have some extra details in here, some meta details. For now, we're just going to leave that empty and ignore that for now. And then we want to go inside our routes file here, and we want to go in and import it. So we want to go in and say import home from home, and then we want to go say routes, and we want to say index. Then we want to say export default with the spread operator here, and we want to import the home here. And now what we can do now is we can take it into use in our app.js file, and that would actually be all for now. So what we ideally should see is be able to see the home component. So now up here, just under view, doesn't actually matter where you put it. We want to import router from router, and then we want to go in and add router. Now if you go in here, you can see there's an error in the app.view component, so let's go in and figure out what that is. So that will be all the way up here. And obviously what our error is, we didn't close the tag, we just made another tag of the same one. So now, let's see what it says now. Inside router, index.js, routes were not found. So let's go in and see what it says here. So what it's telling me is didn't find the routes file in here. So okay, export home. Okay. I'll just be back and try to see why this error occurs. Alright, so I realize it's because we obviously need to import it correctly. So if we go in and add index.js here, the only thing we're going to do here is we're going to export the home.view component here. So going into our routes file here again, we now have the index file here, and this should then be able to export the home.view. And then we import it into here. That seems okay here, so let's go and see what happens here. So from here we're gonna obviously import home from routes. If we now go in here, you can see there's still nothing happened in here. So we need to of course also register the route component correctly. Alright, yeah, so sorry about that again. I forgot something again. This is again a longer video. There's a lot of things to cover here, a lot of small things, so I forgot this one here, we need to add in index.js and just export it here, and then we can basically, just to keep it a bit more organized, it's actually just, and then we can basically just go in here and save from index instead. Now if you go in and refresh, we still have the router view here, and that's our only issue now. So let's go down and figure out why this router view doesn't want to load properly. So first of all, let's go in here and import router view from router view router. Okay, so let's go in and I'll just figure out why this is happening. This shouldn't happen. So let's go in and try like this. Then also just pull this down here. Alright, I'll come back and see why this happens. Alright, so by removing this one here and then refreshing, should ideally actually address the issue, but at least this needs to be lower capital. So if you're going to say view.use router and then try to refresh the page, okay, we still get the same error. I'll just come back and get. Alright, so what we need to do is we just need to use the default here, which then fixes the error here. Okay, great. So now we have the hello world here from the home component. So basically how this works is we have this main file here where we basically only do changes if we need to do changes to the core part of the router. For example, turn off history mode, or change before each statement, for example. And then we have all of the routes in here where we are gonna continue loading more routes. So we can go in and say .auth, and then we can go in and load all of the files inside index.js, all of those in here, and then all of those in here as well. So that's what we're gonna do. So basically we allow ourselves to create all of our routes inside each directory, so we don't have to have like one big file with 500 routes in it. That can be a bit hard to keep an overview of if you have one large file with all of the routes. So instead we separate it into each folder where there's a page. So every time we have a page about a certain topic, for example profile, so we can have edit profile, delete profile, and we can also have maybe, I don't know, profile page. And then you can go in there and create 3 routes, and that is all in the same topic. So this is a way to keep it organized for when the application grows larger, instead of having, you know, keeping like this. You can see at some point this is getting really hard to find which route is what. So if you have 25 different routes in here, it's going to be hard to figure out which route we are actually going to stick with, and what route is the one we want to change. So that's actually all for this video now. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.